Hey everybody, Ryan here at Etrailer. Today on our 2019 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Diode wiring kit. So there's going to be a total of 5 main components needed to flat tow your Jeep down the road. First one's going to be your base plate. The base plate's going to provide us with a solid and reliable connection point. That way we have something to hook up our tow bar to. The tow bar is going to be that second component. That's actually going to be the link that hooks up to your base plate, to the back of your motorhome, and this is actually going to physically pull your Jeep down the road. The third component is going to be safety cables. So safety cables are pretty straightforward. They're there in the event of an accidental disconnect. The safety cables are going to keep your Jeep and motorhome connected together. The fourth component is going to be your tow bar wiring. So the tow bar wiring is going to transfer the lighting signals from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Jeep, and that's going to help keep you safe and legal. The fifth component is going to be a braking system. So the braking system is going to apply the brake pedal inside the Jeep whenever you hit the brakes in your motorhome. That's going to not only reduce the wear and tear on your motorhome's braking system, but it's also going to make your stops more safe and predictable, since the Jeep's applying its brake pedal on its own and not relying on the motorhome to do all the work. So in my opinion, I prefer the diode wiring kit over some of the other ones. That's for a few different reasons. The first one being that it has diodes. So those diodes are going to protect your Jeep's factory wiring if a short or an electrical issue were to occur on the motorhome side. And in today's vehicles, that's really important, because the electronic systems can be really advanced and you don't want anything to jeopardize that or potentially cause any damage. Another reason is how easy it's going to be whenever you go to hook up and flat tow. With the diode wiring, once you have it installed, you're not going to be able to see it when you are driving around town normally, and the only thing you're going to have to do when you are ready to flat tow is simply plug it in at the front of your Jeep to the back of your motorhome. And here's how you would do that. Your plug is mounted here at the front. You take your cable, push it in, and the other end of the cable into the back of the motorhome. And that's all there really is to it. And that's one nice thing about this kit, is the fact that it's going to come with the cord. So that's one less component you're not going to have to worry about picking up separately. Now this one is coiled. That way whenever you're going straight, it's going to stay up nice and tight off of the ground, so you don't have to worry about dragging it. However, whenever you go to make your turns and you need some extra length, it'll stretch out. Now there are a couple different versions of this kit with different types of cables. The coiled one, you're going to want to use with tow bars that don't have channels running along the side. If your tow bar does have channels running along the side, you're going to want to get the kit that has the straight cable. That way the straight cable can get ran through them channels and utilize them properly. So overall, really, this is going to be the best way to go to get your lighting functions at the back of your Jeep. As I said, extremely easy to hook up and straightforward. You're not going to have to take a bunch of time out of your day to worry about getting everything set up. And it's going to give a nice, clean factory look. Now, as far as the installation goes, it is relatively straightforward and easy. Doesn't take a whole lot of time. The hardest part, or the most time-consuming part, is having to run your wire from the front to the back of your Jeep. But it's really straightforward, and I'll show you the path that I took to get there. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and do that together now. To begin our install, we're going to be here at the front of our Jeep, and it's a great time to do this wiring whenever you just get done doing your base plate, because we're going to have all this extra room to work. That's why our bumper and everything you see here now is removed. But with that being said, we can grab our plug and get to hooking it up. So what we're going to do is grab our bundle of wire and grab one end of it. We're going to take the rubber boot that goes on the back of our plug and slide that over. And then we're going to separate all of our wires. So I'll take some snips and just carefully cut in between them. Go ahead and grab the ends, just kind of pull them back a few inches. Each end, what we're going to do is peel back the insulation We'll strip it back and twist that wire nice and tight. That'll help ensure that we get a good connection. So I'll do that same thing for our 3 remaining wires. Once we have those stripped back, what I'm going to do is run them through our connector bracket here. Now each setup can be a little bit different. In our particular case, the base plate that we used did not have a bracket that was pre-attached to it for our wiring plug. Some base plates do, others don't. What I did was just take a long bracket, a no-drill long bracket that you can pick up here at Etrailer, and the included little bracket that comes with the kit, and just mount it to our base plate like that. We'll kind of let that wire hang down for a second. So if you grab our plug, on the back side, we'll see all the terminals. We're going to be using 4 of them. They are labeled. We're going to be using this one here, which is labeled RT for right turn, so our green wire will go into it. The way these work, these little set screws, you're just going to back them out enough to get your wire inside of there. I try not to go all the way out, because if that screw falls out, it's really easy to lose, and not to mention get back in. The other terminal will be this one here, which is labeled LT for left turn. And so our yellow wire will go there. We'll be using this one here, which is labeled GD for ground. And so our white wire will go there. And this one up here, which is labeled TM, that'll be our taillight signal. And our brown wire will go there. So what I'll do is grab our wires that we stripped back and put the wires in the corresponding terminals. So green is our right turn. Push it down. And then tighten down the set screw. I'm going to do that same thing to get all of the remaining wires into position. So this is what it's going to look like once we have all the wires hooked up. Now what I'm going to do is take some dielectric grease, you can find some here at Etrailer, and just coat the terminals really good. And that's just going to help prevent any potential corrosion. Once we have them coated, you can take your rubber cap, push that onto the back of the plug, and we can go ahead and secure our connector. So now at this point, we can run the rest of our wiring to the back of our Jeep. So I went ahead and did that, and this is a path that I took. I just followed our base plate over to the driver's side of our Jeep, and I was actually able to run our wiring through the frame rail. I brought it up, and right through here, there's a factory hole on our frame rail, and so I was able to push our wiring through that towards the back. So right about here is where the wire goes inside of the frame. We push it back, back, all the way towards the end. It'll continue to run through. So the way I was able to get our wiring inside of the frame was by using a pull wire. This is just a nylon piece of tubing, but you could always use a coat hanger or a really stiff piece of wire, something like that. But what you would do is find factory holes in the frame rail and go from one to the other. That way your pull wire runs through like that. On one end, you would simply tape your taillight wiring tube, pull the other end of your pull wire, and that'll bring your wiring out through the next hole. You can just continue to do that all the way to the back. It'll continue through the frame up and over our rear axle. And right here, just behind our muffler, is where the wiring drops out. Once I got to this point, what you're going to want to do is just separate all the wires from each other. So you have 4 individual strands. We can focus on getting the white wire hooked up first. This is actually going to be a ground wire, and so we're going to have to secure it to the body or frame of our Jeep. I think I'm going to go right here in this area. It's nice solid metal. So I kind of just eyeball the length that we need and trim the wire. You want to hold on to that piece of white wire that we just cut off because we can use it a little bit later. We're going to strip back that insulation, twist that wire nice and tight, take the included ring terminal, slide that over the bare end, and crimp it down. From there, we can grab our self-tapping screw, feed it through the ring terminal, and secure it to the steel. So now at the back of our Jeep, we're going to need to remove the taillights, and both of them are going to come out the same way. If you move just to the inside, we're going to have a little panel right here. We got to get that out of the way. I'm just using a little plastic trim tool, but you could use a flathead screwdriver. Just pop it up. And underneath that panel, there's going to be a plastic fastener. You could either use a screwdriver or a 10mm. I'm going to use the socket. We'll loosen that up. We're going to remove this fastener completely. And this will be the only thing that's actually securing our taillight. So it's not a bad idea with your other hand to kind of put a little bit of pressure against it. That way the light don't accidentally fall out. We'll pull it out and move around back to our taillight. And pull straight back, and then we're going to get it disconnected. The connector will have a little red tab here. You can pull that back. Then if you push down on the center, we should be able to separate our wiring just like that. So I'll set this taillight to the side and repeat that same process to get our other one removed. So at this point, we can grab a pull wire. Again, I'm just using a piece of nylon air tube. Drop it from our taillight pocket down, and we're going to connect our yellow and brown wire and that extra length of white wire that we cut off from our ground. I just twisted all of them together. I'm going to tape them to our pull wire, and then I'll be able to feed them up into our taillight pocket. So I'll pull it all the way up until we get all that extra slack out. So I went ahead and just cut our wires to length and peeled back the insulation on all three. And now we can crimp on some Spade terminals. The yellow wire is going to get a blue terminal. It just slides on and crimps down. The brown and white wire, however, be a little bit different. We're going to take those two ends and twist the wires together. We're going to be using the white wire as a jumper wire that'll run over to the passenger side eventually. Once we have those twisted together, we're going to take the yellow Spade terminal and crimp it onto those two. So I went ahead and removed the tape that had all these wires bundled up. I just peeled it off, and that allowed me to be able to easily test our wiring to find the signals that we need. The signals that we need to find are the taillight signals and the brake light signal. So what I found is that this thicker white wire that has a light gray stripe down it, that's going to be our taillights or our running lights. And the yellow wire, that's going to be our brake light signal. So what we're going to do is cut these in half. Each end, we're going to strip back the insulation. And crimp on a blue Spade terminal. So I'll go ahead and do that for our 3 remaining wires. With all of our connectors crimped on, we can grab our diodes and plug them in. So the side of the diode that says out, it's going to have a single terminal. That's going to plug into the ends of our wires that are closest to our connector plug. So we'll go ahead and start with the white wire with the gray stripe first. This will be our taillight signal. The other side of our factory white and gray wire will plug into one of the end terminals. Then our new wiring, the side that has the brown and white wire connected together, will go into that last remaining terminal. For the yellow wire, again, single out end closest to the connector. Other side of the factory yellow wire is to one of the end terminals on our diode. And then the new yellow wire that we ran, that's going to get connected to that last remaining terminal. Just like that. So I went ahead and just taped back up our factory wiring. And we can secure our diodes. We just peel off that backing paper. And what I'm going to do is stick them together. And I think I'm just going to zip tie them to our factory wiring here just to keep everything kind of in one piece. Once I have this all done, we can go ahead, grab our tail light, and hook it back up. So this just plugs back in the same way. And don't forget to push back down your red tab. Feed everything into the taillight pocket. Then we can just come back on the inside of our Jeep and secure it using that same fastener that we removed. So now back underneath our Jeep, what I went ahead and did was routed our green wire as well as the white jumper wire over to the passenger side. So I just followed this support bar here. The wiring is on top of it. I just kind of tucked it up out of the way and used some zip ties along the way to keep it secure. Here's where it comes out. And then I ran it up into the taillight pocket the same way that we did the other side. So over here on the passenger side, I hooked up our diodes pretty much the same way. Really the only difference being the color of the wires. Our factory brake wire is going to be the solid green wire. And so we're going to take our new green wire and connect it to that diode. The factory tail lamp signal will be the white wire with the orange stripe. And so we're going to connect our white wire to that diode. So that's how they ended up being installed. And what we can do now is just like the other side. Tape them together and get them secured. Now that our diodes are secure, we can plug our tail light back in and get it reinstalled. At this point, we need to test our wiring out to make sure that it's working properly. Now I'm using a tester box, but you could do the same thing by just plugging into the back of your motorhome. So we'll go ahead and turn on our tail lights, our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our brake lights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Diode wiring kit on our 2019 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.